Welcome into Broncos Weekend. I'm Matt Boyer, Alexis Perry, Karl Mecklenburg, and voice of the fan will be along in just a moment. But as always, we are joined in studio by the Hall of Famer, Steve Atwater. Steve?
What's going on, Boyer?
Free agent season, my friend. It is time to talk free agents. We're going to switch things up a little bit, though, today. We're going to go position by position, the most likely areas or position groups that the Broncos might target. Okay. But we're going to focus on guys outside the building. Obviously, guys like Justin Simmons, Shelby Harris, Von Miller, we'd like to see those guys back. Fingers crossed, right?
Yes.
But we're going to look at the names that some Broncos fans might not be as familiar with. And, of course, we're going to start with quarterback. We talked a couple weeks ago about competition. So, at the quarterback position, we're each going to give a guy.
Okay, all right.
And explain why we like this name. So, You started off first. Who do you got at the quarterback position for your free agent wish list?
You know what? I kind of have two guys depending on which way we're thinking. Or if we're thinking, hey, Drew Lock is our guy, we want a guy who could come in and play if Drew Lock can't get up to speed this year. That'll be Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
But if we're thinking about a guy who can compete with Drew Lock and push Drew Lock and possibly start in front of Drew Lock, like Jameis Winston.
I got Jameis Winston. That's my guy.
So Fitzpatrick, you're looking at my sheet,
I know, man.
man.
Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston. All right, so tell me why you like Fitzpatrick.
Well, one, he's a veteran. He kind of knows his role. He did that same thing this past year with the Miami Dolphins. Did a great job of stepping in when the team needed him to, and was able to rally them back. He's a smart guy, an Ivy Leaguer. So, he wouldn't have any problem picking up the playbook. And, he makes clutch plays. And I think he can be a good leader for this team in the interim.
My guy's Winston, third-string quarterback in New Orleans. We don't, as of this recording, Drew Brees is still going to play football in 2021. So, clearly the Saints like Brees and they like Taysom Hill. If you're a veteran quarterback like Jameis Winston, and you're looking across the league at situations where you could come in and play. Jameis Winston, 2 years ago, threw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. He's a good quarterback, 30 INTs, but he's productive.
Got a Pro Bowl under his belt.
Right. You look across the league, though, Washington maybe a destination, Carolina where he could play right away. But I think this is the place for him where he could come and have success, push Drew Lock, and maybe sign a one-year prove-it deal to kind of see where things stand in 2022. So I like Winston as well.
I agree with that.
Let's go to defensive back now, okay? I've got Mike Hilton as my pick from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who do you got?
I have Will Jackson III.
Okay.
Cincinnati Bengal. He's a guy, he could come in right now and plug him in at that outside corner over there, and we got a player that can play with just about anybody. Now, he had a few issues going up against the Cleveland Browns and OBJ, but, other than that, I thought he did a really nice job of playing. He can play man-to-man. He can play zone defense. He's got the speed to play the position. He's got the physicality. I like him as a free agent at the cornerback position. Like I said, he can come in right now. So.
It's a solid pick. I picked Hilton because he looked great against Denver this year in week 2. Okay, check out this line. 8 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a PBU. We saw a couple years ago when Kareem Jackson came in against the Broncos, had a very nice game. The hit everybody remembers against Phil Lindsay. You can't go off one game, but the production is there all season long. And you need a versatile slot guy or somebody who can play that versatile role in a defense. Bryce Callahan was kind of that guy for the Broncos last year, couldn't stay healthy. I don't know what happens with that situation in the slot, if Callahan can stay healthy or not. I just think that they need some consistency, some stronger play there. It won't be cheap, but the talent and consistency are worth it in my mind. So you think outside corner more so than slot?
Yeah, because I think Bryce Callahan is, if he's healthy, he's got that slot corner down pat. And
I agree.
I wouldn't want anyone else to play that position but him.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move to inside linebacker now, okay? I've got Jayon Brown from the Tennessee Titans. Steve, who's your pick?
Matt Milano, the Buffalo Bills. This guy brings the smoke. He can fill the holes against the run, and he does a great job in coverage. He's played in a great defense who all the guys fly to the ball, and I wanted him to help instill that more into our defense where everybody's going to the ball like a pack of wild dogs.
That Bills defense was nasty last year when the Broncos saw it in person up at Empower Field at Mile High. Jayon Brown, for me, he's going to be expensive. Teron Davenport from ESPN.com recently had a great article about how the Titans' defense is about a yard, almost a full yard worse on defense when Brown isn't in the lineup. So I like his ability to cover, and when you're in a division with tight ends like Darren Waller, Travis Kelce, got to be able to cover. And I was looking at this too, Steve. The highest drafted defender for the Broncos the past couple of years since Vic Fangio has been a head coach has been pick 71. That's probably going to change this year, but
that's D-line. Draymond
Jones was picked at number 71. I think this is the year that the Broncos go out and get an inside linebacker. They've been kind of flirting with it a little bit. They could have taken Devin Bush in 2019, moved back, drafted Noah Fant. Last year, Mike Klis reported that they had tried to get back into the first round and get Patrick Queen. Didn't happen. I think finally the Broncos pulled the trigger this year and drafted an inside linebacker. But if they weren't, I think Brown or Milano would be a great alternative. Let's move to edge rusher now. I've got Leonard Floyd, a guy who's got some familiarity with Vic Fangio's system. Yeah. Who do you got?
Bud Dupree with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the guy who was responsible for hurting Drew Lock. Drew Lock, they've been getting into a fight when he comes up here, right to get it started off. But once they get over all that, I think he's going to be a great edge rusher. He's already played some good football, and I think he'll be a great addition to this team.
I think Dupree's a good pick. Floyd played for Fangio, knows the system well, and we've seen guys like Bryce Callahan come in right away, have that experience, have some success. Are any of these guys Von Miller? No. You'd probably prefer to have Von Miller, but both of those guys I think are solid alternatives if Von and the Broncos can't find a path forward. All right, Steve, we're going to wrap things up here with a wild card, so we can go with any position that we wanted to. You and I are on the same page, though, because we both went with running backs. I went with James Conner from Pittsburgh.
I like it.
Who's your pick?
Chris Carson. I can't believe this guy is even available. And if I were the Seahawks, I'd do everything I can to sign him back. He's a guy who, when you need a yard, he's going to get you a yard. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run. He can run people over. He's dominant. He's a guy that I would have to be up late nights before the game. Like, oh, man, we got to tackle Chris Carson tomorrow. A heck of a football player, and I think he's going to demand big dollars on the free agent market. He had a couple of 1,000-yard seasons under his belt. Had a foot injury last year, but I think he's going to be all the way back from that. He's going to be productive this year.
I agree. The reason I picked Conner, I know you like Conner too, familiarity with Mike Munchak, knows Munchak well from his years in Pittsburgh. So I think, that familiarity in the run game is going to pay dividends for him. Great receiver out of the backfield. It's very solid running the football and just brings a toughness. I love his story about him beating cancer, coming back to football. I would love to see Conner in orange and blue, but
Conner is nasty.
I don't think he gets out of Pittsburgh. And to be honest with you, Melvin Gordon's situation, that still needs to play out. Phillip Lindsay could be back. So running back, it's still very much up in the air at this point. We got to take a break. But when we come back on Broncos Weekend, Karl Mecklenburg is joining the A-team. Steve's chatting with Karl about what the Broncos need to focus on this offseason for improvement. Plus, we are going international once again for Voice of the Fan. This time, we're going to London. Don't go anywhere. One of the best defenders in Broncos history is joining Atwater's A-team this week. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend, everybody. This week, Steve is chatting with fellow Ring of Famer Karl Mecklenburg to talk about the Broncos' pass rush in 2021 and what this Broncos team can do to get better this offseason.
Karl Mecklenburg, thank you for joining me, man. 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. Man, just one of the greatest players and guys. First guy I ever met when I got into the Broncos building. I'm sure people have heard that story before. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Steve. You doing all right?
Yeah, doing pretty good, man. Just trying to figure out what's going to happen with the team here. What direction they're going to go. Just start off with the edge rushers, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. How important do you think it is to Broncos country to see them play at least one full season together?
That'd be nice. That really would. I remember during my career, I had a couple of tandems like that where it was me and Roland Jones or it was me and Simon Fletcher. And having that balance, having somebody coming from both sides, they can't slide the line one way or the other and get you both. So
yeah,
even somebody one-on-one. So that's really vital for Vaughn to continue to have his unbelievable career, and for Chubb. I mean, Chubb has never. I mean, last year was the first time he was the guy that they were sliding to double team, and it was a little tougher for him.
Yeah. All right, Mac. So now, what do you think about our inside linebackers and their play during the 2020 season? What did they do well? What areas can they improve in?
I think the one thing that just about every inside linebacker has the most trouble with is covering the tight ends nowadays. I mean, they got unbelievable tight ends. They're splitting them out. They're putting you in situations that you basically have to be a tight end / DB. If you watch the Super Bowl and watch what Tampa's guys were able to do, great athletes, and they could handle the run, but they could also cover the tight ends. And to me, that's probably the biggest challenge for inside linebackers in today's game.
Yeah. Now, do you think we need to add an inside linebacker? And if so, how do you think we need to do that, either through free agency or the draft?
The guys we have are great run stoppers. To me, one of the things that gets lost when you're bringing in free agents and you're constantly turning over the roster is that connection between the players, the understanding. If I know where you're going to be and I know what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are, I can help cover for your weaknesses and I can count on your strengths, and I know what's going on. That's how you dominate on defense is everybody knows what the other guy is doing and you all cover for each other and you make plays. I mean, so no, they don't need to bring in new guys. They need to get better together.
Now, how long does it take to build that chemistry? You played with a ton of guys during your career. I know you saw guys come and go, but like, how much time do you think is required to build that bond there, or just to where you guys are on the same page when you're on the field?
I think at least a year, and a year with a preseason and an off season.
Good point.
That piece of it is really overlooked. That connection, that understanding of who's next to you and who's behind you and who's in front of you, and all what they're capable of and what they're not capable of, and the coaches need to get to know them too.
Who can have the biggest impact on the team's improvement over the off season? Is it the players? Is it the coaches? Is it the front office personnel? Who and why?
Well, I'm gonna cheat on this one and say everyone.
Okay,
all right. I think everyone's responsible for their own actions in the off season. Well, you saw how Bulls made the big jump in the off season last year, and there was no explanation to that other than he worked hard during the off season. There's guys that struggle in the off season, end up getting in trouble, gaining weight, doing the wrong thing, and you got to be an adult, you got to be a man, you got to take care of yourself. As far as the front office, that's huge. You've got to have strong leadership, and I don't know where it's going to come from. Hopefully, it comes at all levels, because that's how successful organizations are built. Great leadership at the top, great leadership at coaching, great leadership in the training room, great leadership in the equipment room, great leadership across the organization, on the offense, on the defense, on the special teams. That's how you win.
So, hey, Mac, man, I really appreciate you coming on. And you guys stay healthy over there. Give Kathy and the rest of the fam a hug for us, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Thanks, Steve. Nice to talk to you.
Our thanks to Karl for taking some time with us this week. We come back on Broncos Weekend. We are headed to London. Alexis Perry joins the show with Voice of the Fan. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend, everybody. Time now for Voice of the Fan, Broncos Country. This, of course, is where you get to sit where we sit, do what we do, chat with Steve Atwater a little bit, and tell us your story about how you became a Broncos fan. We've gone international before, and we're going international again. Alexis Perry is taking us all the way to London.
That's right, Matt. Today, we are so excited to have Josh Christensen, a Colorado native and CU Boulder alumni who is currently living abroad in London, England, joining us as the Voice of the Fan this week. Josh, is it safe to say that even though you are 4,700 miles away, that the distance just kind of makes the heart grow fonder when talking about your love affair with the Denver Broncos?
Oh, definitely. I watched all the games this year. I got the Game Pass. I mean, it's hard. You have to stay up a little bit later, but it's definitely worth it.
Oh, nice. Got the Game Pass. Very nice. Very nice. Now, how did you first become a Broncos fan, and how long ago was that?
So it's funny. I came from a football family. My dad's from Minnesota, and he's a huge Vikings fan.
Oh.
My mom's actually a Seahawks fan, but it was actually my grandpa, who was a Broncos fan, who really got me into watching football and watching the Broncos. And it was when you guys were on your Super Bowl runs is when I really first started paying attention, and I fell in love with, the 97 team. And I loved Terrell Davis, and I wore number 30 all throughout my little league days trying to beat Terrell. So that's really when it started.
All right. Hey, so what kind of stats do you have, man, as a running back?
It was pretty good. But then when in high school, I transitioned to wide receiver. So couldn't be number 30 as a wide receiver.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Well, Josh, I could only imagine the roller coaster of emotions for you last offseason, hearing that the Broncos were heading to London to play the Falcons, only to have your heart broken and hear that the game was canceled. Were you planning on going to the London game?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually looking into tickets. They hadn't formally announced it, but I kind of knew it was coming down the pipeline. And I kind of live by the Tottenham Stadium, so I was really looking forward to going, but it was unfortunate it was canceled, kind of heartbroken. But I see that we play Jacksonville this year, so hopefully maybe we'll get a second opportunity to see them here in London.
Yeah, that'd be great. Hey, I know that would have been a game that you would have never forgotten, but hopefully, like you said, the Broncos will get another chance. But speaking of memorable moments, I'm sure you have a ton of Broncos memories, dating back to those mid to late 90s. Is there a particular moment that you would say is your all-time favorite?
Yeah, actually, I think my all-time favorite moment had to be in the 2015 season. And it wasn't the Super Bowl, but it was the AFC Championship game when we beat the Patriots.
Yeah.
And I think it was because the way we beat the Patriots. I think I was as a Broncos fan with the Mike Shanahan offenses and the Peyton Manning offense, I was a little spoiled. And I always wanted to watch a good defense. And that game was they pretty much pitched a perfect game. And it was just relentless pressure all day on Tom Brady.
So who was your favorite player on that team?
Oh, I had Aqib Talib for sure.
Aqib?
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, he's the dog. He was the attitude of the defense. Our defense hasn't been the same, hasn't had the same swagger since he's left, I don't think. And he was the guy that brought it.
Wow, I'm sure he's going to love to hear that.
You mentioned the AFC Championship game. I know the Broncos, they're itching to get back to the playoffs, but in order to do that, George Paton, he's going to need to acquire some talent this offseason through free agency and the draft. Which position do you see as the Broncos' biggest need that you hope to see them address this offseason?
Interestingly, I think that there's been a lot of chatter about the quarterback position and potentially getting Deshaun Watson. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but I definitely think that we need to go out and get a veteran quarterback. And I think someone like Ryan Fitzpatrick would be perfect because not only if you get Fitzpatrick and if you run it back with Drew Lock, you have quarterback competition. But if you end up hitting the lottery and getting Deshaun Watson, then Ryan Fitzpatrick would be here on maybe a 1 or 2 year deal. And that one, he would be good in the quarterback room. And also, I think one of the things that good teams do is they take care of their own players and they are proactive in re-signing.
I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going. I like it.
And so I think that one of the things that would be good would to reach out to Cortland Sutton and potentially sign him to a longer term deal now because he's coming off an injury and he needs some security. And I think it would be a little bit more of a discount now than it would be if he has a monster year and he's going into free agency next year where we might have to franchise tag him. So I think it would be good for him. Get security, get a bump in salary this year, and then potentially for the Broncos, it wouldn't be as expensive because I don't have any doubts that he's going to come back and be healthy and be like the player he was.
Josh, I have to know, as a buff, and you talk about taking care of their current guys, like what do you hope happens with Philip Lindsay, who's a restricted free agent this offseason?
So I love Philip Lindsay. I think he's, as a buff, you got to root for him. As a Colorado kid, you got to root for him. But I think that just apart from that, he's a dynamic player, and you don't want to lose dynamic players when there's not enough of them to go around in the league. And I think it's tough because you have a lot of money tied up at the running back position already with Melvin Gordon. So I'm not sure if they're going to sign him to a long-term deal this offseason, but you definitely have to start thinking about it going forward, because I would hate to see him go somewhere else and have a great career and let him get away.
I know, right? It's great. Colorado guy too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Josh, I know you had one more question for Steve. Did you want to ask that one?
Sure. So Steve, as one of the only players who's played in both the current-ish uniform and the old school uniform with the powder blue with the old school D, do you think the Broncos should go back to the old school look?
No. And the reason why is when we moved over to the new logos, that's when we won Super Bowls.
That's the one on the ring. The horse is on the horse head's on the ring, you know?
It's on the ring.
Josh, thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from London. We so appreciate you. Go Broncos and Sco Buffs.
That's right. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Alexis. So great to see all of these stories, Broncos country, wherever you guys are across the globe. Great to hear how you guys became fans of the orange and blue. That'll do it for us today on Broncos Weekend. Special thanks to Alexis Perry, Karl Mecklenburg, and the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. I'm Matt Boyer. So long, Broncos country. We will see you next week.